Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Spider-Man Miles Morales video, and to quite a short one because there is only one bit of information that I want to talk about, because it seems like the Prowler has just been confirmed for Miles Morales. There was a tweet put out from someone who had walked by an artist on Venice Beach working on an advert for Spider-Man Miles Morales, and if you look to the left, you can see Miles without his suit on. You can see his best friend Ganke Lee, you can see Rio Morales, and you can also see Danica Hart, who is the host of a podcast which seems to be filling the void of Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson, where every now and again, between story missions, the podcast would start playing, and we'd get an update from J. Jonah in Spider-Man PS4 about how the public was perceiving the events that happened through the game, and Danica Hart, host of the Danicast, seems to have filled right into that role, as J. Jonah seems to be moving back to the Daily Bugle soon, at least for Spider-Man 2. There has been some speculation that Danica could possibly be the Tinkerer, purely because she's female, just like the Tinkerer seems to be. She seems like she would have the right sort of athletic ability to be the Tinkerer, to be leaping around and kicking Miles off the side of a bridge. And most obviously, the purple dyed hair fits the Underground's aesthetic to a T, so it really didn't take long for people to wonder if she was the Tinkerer, but at least for now she's pictured on the side of the heroes and of Miles' family and friends. But on the other side, we get to see Miles fully suited up, we get to see a small Roxxon soldier taking on a small Underground soldier, we get Rhino, we get the Tinkerer, who is given the biggest piece of art, so she is clearly being promoted as the main villain of the game. Whether that's actually how the story goes, we'll have to see. And then in the corner, we get what can only be the Prowler. He seems to be quite a bit more mechanical, like he's taken tech from the Underground and from the Tinkerer, and then used it for himself, and that's assuming that he's not in league with the Underground. It could be that they introduce us to the Prowler in the first place, and then maybe he usurps them to become the primary antagonist. In this image, he doesn't seem to have a cape like we saw in his Spider-Verse outfit and his just classic costume, but that is not the only outfit he's ever worn. He has worn more of an armor design before in the comics, so they seem to have gone with a more realistic look rather than the flowing cape. If you didn't know, Aaron Davis, Miles' Uncle Aaron, has already been confirmed for the game. The voice actor for Miles Morales put up a post a good while ago showing him recording some voice lines talking to Uncle Aaron.
Hey, Mr. Davis, how are things looking now? Hey, Mr. Davis, how are things looking now?
And in just yesterday's Game Informer interview, they mentioned how personal this story is to Miles, and that included how his uncle's involved. They didn't say specifically that his uncle was the Prowler in this game and that he was going to be the big villain, but they did reiterate how this is about family and just how personal the story is to Miles and how that's going to have an impact on him. Just because we've seen the Prowler and we know that Aaron Davis is in the game doesn't actually mean that Aaron Davis is going to be the Prowler, because the original iteration of the Prowler wasn't Aaron Davis at all, it was actually Hobie Brown. There was also a second Prowler, and Rick Lawson also briefly became the Prowler before it then was Aaron Davis, and it seems to have stuck with him more recently. But it is not a complete guarantee that when the Prowler shows up, and if he is unmasked, that the person under that hood will be Aaron Davis. It could just be a person who Miles has never met in his life, but if someone shows up in the game, interacting just as a human, called Hobie Brown, or Hobbit, or Hobart, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, if they show up, then there is a very good chance that they will be the Prowler in this game. So let me know what you think about this down below. Do you think this Prowler will be Aaron Davis, or do you think they'll go for a less personal touch, which doesn't seem like the Insomniac way, especially after the Game Informer interview, talking about how personal it is with the family. For them to make the Prowler then just a nobody who's angry at Spider-Man, that would be a bit of a surprise, especially after how well the Prowler was portrayed in the Spider-Verse movie. Everyone thinks he's an amazing villain, and it would be a shock if they then took that audience who loved Spider-Verse and are playing Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales because of the Spider-Verse movie, for them to then completely change the identity of the Prowler would be really surprising and probably not the smartest move on Insomniac's part. But thank you for watching this video, leave a like if you did enjoy, and hopefully I will see you next time.
One opportunity that Miles affords you in terms of, parsing out what's different from him and Pete is that, like, he has a family, he's young enough to still have an actual father, if not father figures, a mother who's active in his life, and an uncle, like, as we've seen in different iterations of the character, who like impacts him in various ways, right? So, like, that's all things to consider when you're shaping a story around this character. And the other thing too is, like, I mean, we can't talk about this game without talking about the way that Miles exists in other iterations. In the movie, obviously, is one big one of them. So I think this is a very emotional story. This is emotional. This is a story about belonging, where you belong, and how you figure out how you belong. It's a story about family, very much so. And this is Miles's first day on the job solo. This is Miles figuring out how to become his own kind of Spider-Man. Like there's lots of expectations from other people about, oh, okay, here's what the other Spider-Man would do, but like Miles isn't Peter, and he doesn't have the kind of experience and kind of veteran status that Peter does. So like this is his first day on the job, so he's trying to figure out whether he can actually do this.
So you brought up the uncle, which was a big part of Into the Spider-Verse. How much did that film influence what you were doing in the game, or make you shy away from it? Right.
I mean, the thing that I really love about working at Insomniac and working with Marvel Games is we have a lot of freedom to do our own thing and tell our own story. So we were really excited from the very beginning. I mean, from our initial conversations, it's like, okay, we're going to read all the source material. We're going to look at everything that exists, everything that fans have written about the character. And because you always do that, you always want to process that. But we were super excited to have freedom from our partners at Marvel to tell our own story and go in our own direction. I mean, you're always kind of aware what's out there, and you want to make sure you're presenting something fresh that players and fans maybe haven't seen before, because I know that's what I would want if I was a consumer. So it's there, but we're really focused on trying to tell our own story, and especially our own Insomniac take on all of these characters, because I just know that that's what I would want as a fan. I would want something new that feels authentic to the character, but surprising.